About my paper that I'm going to deliver, which is Collective Memory Under Siege. And I'll relate it a little bit to the book that I wrote, The City of Collective Memory, where I make a distinction between history and memory. I'm following Morris Halbach's work on the collective memory, where there's a division. People remember, the collectivity or the society does not remember. And yet he's also saying that memory is formed in social groups. So I have been asked to work on collective memory and monumentality, or creation of monuments by architects. And I find that a very difficult question, because whose memory is being built, or what monument does it represent? And just exactly what has happened with collective memory since I wrote that book. When I wrote The City of Collective Memory, it was in the 80s and early 90s that I was doing research. And I have not looked at collective memory work since then, or memory work since then. So starting this just the last year, I have discovered that there's an unbelievable outpouring of books and work and monuments on memory. It's too much for any one person to actually get control of. But one of the issues is there such a thing as collective memory? And how is memory used for the collectivity, against the collectivity? Whose memory? Maybe the term shouldn't be used at all. And for me, particularly, the question really is, when architects build a monument, who are they building for? What memory are they trying to recall? So in this paper, I wanted to look at not so much the memory machine that has developed in Germany around the Holocaust, the remembering of the Holocaust, the building of monuments in Berlin. This has been covered extensively. But I wanted to look at the issue of memory in other countries, particularly Rwanda with genocide. The question of how do you build a monument to genocide? The question in South Africa, where apartheid really silenced memory, silenced people from remembering, and how do you go back to make a monument or bring things that have been silenced? And so how do you do that? I wanted to look at Lebanon and Beirut, where after the disastrous years of the Civil War, people were told, don't remember, get on with your life, and where the center of Beirut had been bulldozed and dumped into the Mediterranean Sea, and a new center has been built. So how do people come to terms with, unfortunately, war and the trauma that war creates, and how do you build monuments after that trauma? And perhaps I come down on the side that memory is something that is alive, and in people's memory, people remember. It's very, very difficult to build monuments to it. The issue of memory, collective memory and democracy, is also a very difficult question to raise, because the nation state raises its head. And memory is often for national identity, used for very controlling purposes. It's Foucault who says, if you control a person's, or said, if you control a person's memory or people's memory, you control their actions. So memory is often used for very conservative political purposes, and this also makes it under siege and very difficult. The subtitle of the talk is really cultural heritage, and the term was used in terms of the Taliban blowing up the Myanmar Buddhas. And there again, this was called cultural heritage or cultural terrorism, excuse me. But it could also be linked a few months later to the war on terrorism that the United States unleashed for the cause of democracy, but also as retaliation for blowing up the World Trade Center and attacking the Pentagon. So the issue of memory, the issue of national identity, the issue of war is what my paper is about. Not only how you build monuments in it, but the argument about democracy, making the world safe for democracy. I think the United States has been trying to do that for most of the 20th century. The question is, how do you pit your evil enemies, the terrorists, is anybody? It's an empty signifier, terrorism. It can stand for anything. People who are against what you believe in are terrorists, but they're not necessarily all terrorists. They're not necessarily all against a culture and destroying a culture. But we certainly are in a time of change where the nation state and its control over a people's memory or collective memory is a debatable issue. It's the heart of ethics as we should be discussing it today.